Greetings, math fans. All right, so this is day 4 notes, and basically what we're doing is we're combining everything that we learned so far with factoring into one worksheet. Okay, this is actually what your test is going to look like for part of your test and your quiz. So it's going to have just all kinds of problems, and you're going to have to factor. So let's just kind of review the 3 different kinds of factors we've been talking about here. All right. So the first kind is basically GCF. Okay, it's GCF. So what you need to look is you look for the greatest common factor. You look for, remember, the smallest exponent for a variable. Every term has to have that variable. And then you look for the number that goes into all terms, the largest number, the greatest common factor. Okay, so that's the first thing. The next thing is the difference of 2 squares. All right, and difference of 2 squares, remember, it's 2 terms. It's really important. 2 terms, and you got to have a minus sign between them, and you have to have perfect squares. Very, very, very important. Notice lots of exclamation points. Oh yeah. All right, so that's difference of 2 squares. And then we have trinomials. And remember, trinomials, they have 3 terms. Okay? And that's where you have to try to figure out your combinations, that multiply to give you that last term, and add or subtract to give you that middle term. Okay? So I just got a bunch of problems we're going to do. Let's just go through them, and hopefully you guys are remembering this stuff and doing well. All right. So it says, first identify each type of factoring, either greatest common factor, difference of 2 squares, dots, or trinomial in the blank to the right of the problem, then factor. Okay, so you look at this problem, and you have 2 terms. Is it difference of 2 squares? No, but you always, here's the deal, you always look for this first. Okay, this is always number 1. You got to look for greatest common factor before you do anything else. Okay, and sure enough, I can see that a 4 goes into 4 and 4 goes into 12. And also, they both have x's. In fact, this has x cubed and this has x to the 4th. So the smallest exponent is x cubed. So my greatest, so this is a GCF, by the way, GCF. And for this one, the greatest common factor, let me just write it in there, is 4x cubed. Okay, because again, the smallest exponents, and 4 goes into each of those terms. So I'm going to, as I showed you already, I'm going to divide everything by 4x cubed. So then you get 4x cubed. And then parentheses, you divide that out, you just get x, and you divide that out, and you get minus 3. And that's it. That's it factored. Now, if you ever wanted to check it, you could just distribute that out. 4x cubed times x is 4x to the 4th. 4x cubed times negative 3 is minus 12x cubed. And you have your original answer, or original problem. Okay, it's just a way to check it. Okay, but you're not going to do this. Sometimes kids have done this. This is not the answer. This is the answer right here. Okay? And guys, as a final answer, your final answer is going to have parentheses in it, because that's what happens when you factor. Okay, number 2. There's no greatest common factor, but I see an x squared and I see a 16. I see there's 2 perfect squares. I see a minus sign between them. There are 2 terms. It's a difference of 2 squares. So remember, you take the square root. Actually, I should write this down here. Difference of 2 squares. Okay, so basically what you do is you take the square root of x squared. Remember, it's like taking that 2, dividing it by 2. So it's x and x. The square root of 16 is 4. So you put a 4 here. And it's plus or minus. You can put minus or plus or minus, doesn't matter. And that's your answer. You're done with the problem. What? Okay, not bad. Okay, number 3. This is a trinomial. No greatest common factor, so this is a trinomial. And that means you're going to put 2 parentheses out there. Remember, you're coming up, well, let's put our signs there. This is always x and x for what we're learning now. And then it's plus and minus. Got to know that, because this is minus. So it has to multiply to give you a negative. That means they have to be opposite signs. Plus minus, minus plus, doesn't matter. And then you got to figure out numbers that give you 40. Well, let me just write them out. There's 4 and 10. Okay, there's 5 and 8. There's 2 and 20. And there's 1 and 40. Okay? The deal is, one of these sets of numbers, because this is a plus minus, one of these numbers needs to subtract to equal that negative 3. So let's not even worry about the negative so far. Which one subtracts? Do you guys agree 8 minus 5, this guy right here, this does it. 8 minus 5 is 3. Those are your numbers then. Okay, now this is a negative 3. Remember, if it's negative, that means the bigger number is negative. If it's positive, that means the bigger number is positive, because it wins. Okay, so in this case here, the 8 has to be negative, and the 5 has to be positive. And that's your answer to this problem. Okay, x plus 5 times x minus 8. Not bad. And again, you could FOIL it, check it, and you'd get x squared minus 3x minus 40. Okay? All right, this is another trinomial. And so if you factor this one, remember the signs multiply to give you positive. That means the same sign, positive, positive, negative, negative. Well, it's negative, negative, because that's negative there. Okay, so we're going to put an x here and x here. And what gives you 36? Well, again, use your calculator. You know, obviously there's 36 and 1. That doesn't happen too often. There's, if I divide 36 by 2, because I know it's an even number, I get 18 and 2. There's 9 and 4. And 12 and 3. Those are, I believe, are all the possibilities. Okay, so which ones add because they're the same sign? So you have to add. Which one adds to give you 13? Okay, well, 9 plus 4 does. So it's 9 and 4. They're both negative, so you don't have to worry about the sign. Okay, x minus 9, x minus 4. Cool. Number 5. I look at this problem right now, and there's no greatest common factor. Nothing goes into 4 and 81 evenly. But I noticed that that's a perfect square. 4 is, 81 is, and that's an even number. So remember, you take 6 divided by 3, which is, 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So it's, let me write this, first of all, it's difference of 2 squares. So if I write this out, I get 2x cubed, 2x cubed. That's where that 3 goes, right there and there. And then 81 is 9 and 9, and then it's plus and minus. That's the answer. Okay? So next one, it's a trinomial. So we put in parentheses, x and x. It's plus minus because it's has to multiply to give you a negative. And then it can either be 2 or 3 or 6 or 1. Now be careful because sometimes people go, oh, 2, 3. But these are opposite signs, so you have to subtract to give you the 5. So in this case here, it's 6 minus 1, and because it's negative, that means the 6 has to be bigger. So negative 6 and positive 1, and that's my answer. Again, I can FOIL it out, check it, and you would see you get x squared minus 5x minus 6. Okay, number 7. A little more complicated, but this is definitely a greatest common factor. And because it's not, there's no perfect square. 2 is not a perfect square. X to the 4th, x cubed, right? Those are, or cubed actually is not one because it can't be an odd number. So I'm going to basically divide each one of these by my greatest common factor, which is actually 2x squared, because that one's got an x squared and x to the 4th, and y cubed. So 2x squared and y cubed, smallest y, exponent. Okay, so if I write that out there, 2x squared, y cubed, and then in parentheses, the 2's cancel, the x squareds cancel, and y to the 8th over y to the 3rd is y to the 5th. And this next one, the 6 over 2 is 3. This gives me x squared, because x to the 4th over x to the 2nd is x to the 4th. And then y cubed over y cubed is just y. So this, math fans, is my final answer. Okay, again, I can distribute that out, and if I do that, I can see that I would get the original problem that I start out with. Okay? All right, the next one is GCF, because I see each one can take a 3. So GCF is 3. And that's going to give us, if I divide each of these by 3, so I get 3 parentheses x squared plus 2x plus 3. Okay, so now here's the deal. This is another trinomial. Now, not always, but I got to try and factor that. It's 3, and then the signs are plus, plus. And the 3, look at this. If I put a 3 here and a 1 here, do they give you 2? Right? 3 plus 1 is 4. So math fans, this is my final answer. I kind of did this on purpose because next part of the chapter, you're going to have to start doing more than just that. You're going to have to look for greatest common factor and then difference of 2 squares, or then perfect square trinomials or trinomials. Okay, but for now, we don't really even have to do that. This is our final answer right here. Okay, 3 parentheses x squared plus 2x plus 3. Okay. Okay, so let's do this guy here. This, by the way, it's a trinomial. So we get x and x plus minus. 44 is 11 and 4. Now if you see something that's right away good, just stick with it. And I see that 11 minus 4 is 7. So, but the 7 is negative. So that means the 11's got to be negative, and then the 4 is positive. That's what you do. So that's your answer. X plus 4 and x minus 11. Okay, this next one is a perfect square binomial, so it's a difference of two squares. That's really what I wanted to say here. Difference of two squares. And you recognize that because 4 is a perfect square, 81 is a perfect square, and x squared is a perfect square. Oh, wait a second. Plus sign here. Can't factor. Okay, guys, you have to look for that. If there's not a plus sign there, you can't factor that. It's not a difference of two squares. If it was a greatest common factor, I would have done that, but I can't factor that problem. Okay? All right, so far so good. This next one, there's a minus sign here. 9 is a perfect square, 25 is a perfect square, and x to the 10th can be divided by 2 to give you x to the 5th, x to the 5th. So that is this is a difference of two squares. So that gives me 3x to the 5th and 3x to the 5th, because basically the square root of x to the 10th is x to the 5th. Okay, because you divide that 10 divided by 2. And then 25 is 5 and 5, and then plus and minus. That's your answer. Okay, so number 12 recognizes trinomial, all right? And so, we'll write trinomial here. And you're going to put your parentheses there, and of course you see it's positive, so that has to be the same sign, and it has to add, then to give you a positive, so it's got to be plus plus. And this is x and x, and then 36, right? We can get our possibilities are 6 and 6, 9 and 4, 12 and 3, 2 and 18, and 36 and 1. So 1 and 36. Well, it's got to add to give you 12, and the only one that does that is the 6 and 6. So x plus 6, x plus 6. Okay, pretty easy. And then last two here. This is definitely a greatest common factor. So it's GCF, and I'm going to divide 5x cubed. That's my GCF. 5x cubed, right? Because 5 goes into 15, 20, and 25 evenly, and the smallest exponent is your x cubed. So 5x cubed, and 5x cubed. So we get 5x cubed, parenthesis gives us 3x squared, plus 4x to the 5th, and then plus 5, right? The x cubes cancel out. And that's it. So again, if you ever wanted to check it, just distribute that 5x cubed to all three terms, and you should get the original problem. Okay? Not bad. And then the last one, this is definitely a trinomial. There's no greatest common factor. And so we're going to factor this guy, and it's plus 21. So it's same sign, but they're both negative, so it's minus, minus. So x and x. And then 21, really, the only ones are 7 and 3, and 21 and 1. And of course, 7 plus 3 is 10. So it's going to be 7 and 3. Okay, so that's it, math fans. That is kind of all three types of factoring in one worksheet, which again is what your quiz and tests are going to be like. So make sure you're able to identify the difference between those three different types of factoring. Okay, that's it, math fans. Have an outstanding day. Adios. Goodbye.